All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Sorry we missed you yesterday, but we are back with a vengeance. I am the dead on leprechaun, and down below me, we got prophets changing it up on us in a new location.
Leprechaun, I gotta tell you, I'm back home in Texas, and it has I feel like I'm in the Garden of Eden. It's amazing out here because Texas is a republic, and if you're not from here or have been here for an extensive amount of time, you don't see that. Like the way the community is, it's different. I'll explain more later, but I'm excited to be out here. I know we got a full show today. You got a lot of info. I've been working my butt off doing offline work, but what do you got for us, man? I'm curious to see because it doesn't look good out there.
Well, we've been pounding home that we thought it was a very good suggestion to maybe get some extra food, and we definitely weren't wrong. So, that story I kind of teased with on screen is that the President of the United States warns of a real food shortage risk over Russia's invasion into Ukraine. So, uh, yeah, I mean, my first thoughts are that's like gives me a sick feeling in my gut. I don't know about you, but
Well, when the president of the United States says something, it's official, right?
well, I mean, I don't know how they came across this information, but it sure seems like it. So I'm going to just go into the story a little bit here. So today, President Biden warned Thursday that there could be a global food shortages resulting from the Russian invasion of Ukraine and announced steps to prevent a potential crisis. We did talk about food shortages, and it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia, it's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. Biden said at a press conference in Brussels where he was meeting with NATO leaders. So he took a trip today to Europe to kind of rally up support for Ukraine. And that's where this information seems to have come from, is in either a press conference during or after one of the summits. So it's just kind of a surreal thing to, we've been talking about that on our channel, like, without being too much doom and gloom, but we wanted you to be prepared. And I have to say, I don't think we missed much on this one at all.
Leprechaun, I've always had a love for gardening and growing my own food, but right now is the time. Oh, quick story. Let me just put this out there. It's on my heart. In
Yeah, yeah,
in
go for it.
in 2020, I turned 40. I was very overweight and depressed. I was like 35 pounds overweight, depressed. I was making all this. I decided I came down to Texas and I grew a garden on my birthday, May 6th. I decided to stop drinking and grow a garden. And so all summer, that's what I did. I got in the best shape of my life. And at the end, I had all this amazing food to eat. I had so much I didn't know what to do with it until the August sun came and scorched it all. But just little side story about growing your own food, and it kind of brings up your dopamine and your happiness level. So I'm really trying to encourage people to do that.
No, I 100% agree, and I think you touched on something. One of our past shows, I forget which one, but you mentioned chickens, and I think that could be a very
Hmm.
valuable thing as well, especially with the fertilizer shortage, because we all know what chicken dung does for you.
That's a very good point, sir. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm gonna put that in the mental memory bank. Okay.
So yeah, but you're not wrong. A garden, anything you can do to make yourself just a little bit more self-sufficient and a little bit more off the grid at this point is always going to be a bonus. I don't think you could possibly have a prep this late in the game that is going to spoil even. I think you're going to use everything you got.
Okay, Leprechaun, I got a question real quick. Let's say I'm just Johnny Nobody, living my life. I've got, maybe a maxed out credit card, a pretty big mortgage. I live in the city. What kind of advice could you give me? Like to prepare for what, I'm not saying doom and gloom end times, but like just for maybe something bad might happen.
Well, if you're in a big city, I think not being in an apartment building would be a huge plus, or at least not on
Mm,
a like a high rise kind of apartment. Um, I
ooh.
s- I see those being kind of like the worst place to be. So if you're there, maybe, I don't know, I'd start to look for a place, even if you don't move out right now, it's probably not a bad thing, just to be on as close to the ground level as possible. The only time an apartment building really comes into play is if we go back and talk doom and gloom for nuclear fallout. It's nice to be in the center part of a massive concrete apartment building, but for just about everything else, not so good.
Okay.
So I guess my advice is get out of the city if you can. If you can't, you're just going to have to keep trucking. I mean, there's not.
Can I bring up something I saw today?
Yeah.
Major Manhattan, and I think it was another coastal city, San Francisco, have the biggest population declines lately, and like I think it's Houston, Dallas, and Phoenix have like the biggest increases. I thought that was interesting.
Ooh, somebody's been watching our videos.
News travels fast.
Nah. But seriously though, there's a lot of major cities that have experienced huge population declines. Not just in California. I mean, that's the one that kind of comes to everyone's mind. But New York has went through some of that. I think everybody just feels the same way. Post COVID, I think everybody feels like their me time away from work is a little more valuable. So I think that people just said, you know what? It's worth getting away from the city, go out a little further, even a suburb. You don't got to be way out in the Toolies.
I got to share something. I had a conversation with a friend in just the middle. No, this was during the Super Bowl. Not this Super Bowl, but the previous one. I was up in Roseville, Minnesota, right by Minneapolis. And I was on the phone with my buddy's brother who lives in New York City. And he's a 5-star bartender, I guess you could say. And he's a very flamboyant and gay, which is funny. I love him to death. He's like, Jamie, don't come to New York. There's no jobs here. We can't work till September. Like he was warning me 2 years ago, don't come to New York. That's creepy.
But the thing is about that firsthand information, I know everybody goes, oh, that's anecdotal, but the honest to gosh truth is the mainstream media does not know what the average working poor person like us, has went through their whole life. So I would rather have the opinion of some rando than I would any sort of politician or anybody that, thinks they know what it's like.
You know what, Leprechaun? I think that's one of the reasons we're doing this show is to kind of cut through the political jargon, and we're real people trying to talk to real people. I'm not doing this to make $1 million. I'm not doing this to make $1. I'm doing this out of passion.
Yep, same here. I mean, I guess my feeling on it is that at some point we're going to need somebody else's help, and maybe we can be that help for somebody now. And like I said, I've got no problem. If we're going through something together, and I'm with any person, whether I know them or not, I'm going to lend a hand and help change a tire. I mean, we got to be human beings still, like you said, and so
embrace humanity.
Yep, so many people are so out of touch.
Okay, that's a good point. I was thinking earlier today, I'm out here in the country, and there are, everywhere I drive, there's abandoned homes, big homes, dilapidated. They've been there for 10 to 20 years, just rotting. And the ground is fertile. There is so much work out here. It is the opposite of what's going on in every major city. I'm telling you, Texas is the garden. In a metaphorical way.
Yeah, the Garden of Eden. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, of all the states there is to move to, it's definitely high on my list.
It is a republic of itself, and you do not mess with Texas.
No, they got some pretty good trespassing laws.
Oh yes. And when you're one of them, they treat you as if you were one of them. Every other state I've lived in is not like that. It's different. I don't know how to describe it. I'm still trying to figure out it, but it's different. And just saying, there's plenty of work out here. And there's going to be a need for food.
Yep. And you're going to see an exodus from the cities.
That's what I was saying. It's already happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's no surprise, to probably people that listen to our show now that it's pretty hard to find a U-Haul in the state of California.
Ooh, that's a very good point. I heard that my mom, she had just moved from the West Coast to the East Coast in September, and the U-Hauls were like ridiculous, $10,000, something like that. But then when they moved back, it was like $1,000. That is peculiar,
yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah, the market does what the market does.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the money. All right, Leprechaun, what else you got going on in the news today?
So big stuff, and I was going to touch on this yesterday. So some of these stories are a merge of both days together. But either way, Russia dropped the dollar as far as petroleum purchasing. So now the ruble and some of the other currencies over in I forget who. There was another country's currency that they were talking about that they were going to be using. But either way, the fact that the United States is now allowing other countries, by proxy of these sanctions and, these punitive measures on Russia, by doing that and losing that status, I don't think a person can really quantify what that means for your bank account, your 401ks, your money, your equity, whatever it is. I think everyone took a pretty heavy hit in the wallet just now when that happened. It maybe hasn't been realized, but it's coming.
Okay, I got an update from our beloved Agent X earlier, and he informed me that Upwork, it's a remote, like online place where you work, just like sanctioned or shut off every Russian that has an account to Upwork. Meaning the innocent people of Russia that are making a living working remotely through Upwork can't do that anymore. And that broke my heart. That cut off their means of making a living. That's not humanity.
No. But, we talked about this in past shows.
The livelihood.
And we said, too, that, this rhetoric against Russians and thinking of them as less than human is not healthy. And you can see what it's produced.
Exactly. The demonization of another human. That's what's happening, huh?
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Okay. Very interesting. Leprechaun, do you have anything positive we can talk about? Maybe shift the shade a little bit, or is this too urgent to discuss? I mean, I don't want to.
No. I mean, these things are going to transpire over time. I mean, like I said, their consequences are not felt immediately. This is one of those things where, it's like a earthquake where the tsunami is coming. It's just not here yet. So again, I'll pound home that we got to tell people absolutely time to stock up on food, given today's news. Whenever the president of the free world, the richest country in the world, tells you that you might be going hungry, I would tend to believe that, because they know a lot more than we do about what kind of production Ukraine is getting out of that country. And that's the bread basket of Europe. So, I mean, Ukraine is not necessarily important to us. But if Europe has no food, they won't be selling it to us because they'll be eating it.
It's a very good point. You got to eat.
Yep. And you're always going to take care of your own. In fact, there's other countries that have even talked about that, they're not going to do anything punitive to Russia. I forget if it was Hungary or some country just spoke up in the last day. And they said that. They said, basically that there was zero chance that they were going to do anything to harm their people, to hurt Russia. And it's like, why can't our president think like that?
It's a very good point.
Going on to some other headlines. I know that you're not big on this news, but going back to the Supreme Court nomination.
Okay. Well, I find interest in anything you might find interest in because I know you're a critical thinker.
Well, it's been all over the news, but not for the same reasons that I guess we'll find it interesting. And it's the fact that I forget what the senator's name was that asked the question. It'll come back to me when I don't need to talk about it. But anyways, one of the senators asked a question asked her to define what a woman was, and she could not do it. She said, in fact, she deferred and said, I'm not a biologist, assuming that a biologist could answer that question. I think a lot of people on the woke side of things would really struggle with that answer, so I don't think she really made anyone happy with that answer, because we all know that they don't believe in, that doctrine, biologists defining what, gender or sex is. And so for the Supreme Court justice to be unwilling to say what a woman is, or just go, I'm a woman, and say, that's the definition, I'm a woman, she could have, there were ways out of that question, and she just didn't take any of her lifelines. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, if we can't define what a woman is, how do we live?
I'm just under the assumption that that's just part of the like dehumanization program, because you're dehumanizing the human. You're turning them into an it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not cool with that. I mean, it's just weird. I'm not saying like, I don't know. There's just a negative feeling I get when I hear stories like that, and I don't know why. I just don't know why.
Well, because I think that any logical person watching it, I think most people, even people that might be trying to pretend that they found that answer to be satisfactory, I think most people are looking at it thinking to themselves that, at the end of the day, if you can't define a simple term like that, how are you supposed to make life or death decisions, literally, for the country, if you can't say something so simple and plain? Like all of common law, where we get most of our, law, at least the basis for it, comes from essentially like, certain terms being defined and being what they are. Some of the old words even still remain in our court system today for those reasons. So for her to not have a logical answer or a prepared remark or anything, I think just says that we're in for a world of hurt once she's on the bench hearing cases. So I'm not saying she's good or bad, but she's off to a real rocky start, and I think people ought to just keep an eye on it.
Is this the black African American lady that's been on the news? Like, I saw it on the news when I was at the gym, and it said something about a judge.
Yep, that's her.
Okay.
That's her.
So why is this happening with that same story with like the swimmer?
So that's kind of interesting too. That got Tucker Carlson and a couple of other YouTubers / Twitter, Twitch users, whatever you want to call them, social media influence types. 3 people got banned for making comments about the swimmer.
Really? I was banned from Twitch recently.
Yeah.
With no explanation. Well, and I don't even stream.
Yeah, and they've really brought the hammer down recently from what I've seen. Maybe they're just thinning the herd because they got to start unifying their message even more. We're getting into, unfortunately, I hate politics, but we're going into an election year. November is a big month for this country. One way or the other, things are going to change for the better or the worse, depending on where you stand. But I think either way you look at it, it's important to, I guess, be mindful of that, and that people are trying to play on that, to get votes.
Leprechaun, did you see the story about the TikTok influencers being invited to the White House for like a breakdown on what? Do you got info on that? Can you share?
Yeah. So they invited, it sounded like it was a Zoom call. I don't know if they were in person, or at least some of them participated by Zoom or whatever. And Jen Psaki was kind of summarizing it in the one of the White House press conferences. And she says that, she was trying to help eliminate disinformation and misinformation regarding the Ukraine Russia crisis, the war stuff, and they were trying to get everybody on the same page so that we don't run the danger of them spreading misinformation accidentally. It's nuts, dude. It's just crazy. I don't know. Like, to me, that is nothing but socialized capitalism. That's not it's supposed to be the people with the best ideas win, an election. The businesses with the best product, survive. like that's what capitalism is. And even like everybody's like, oh, the United States is a democracy. No, not exactly. It's a constitutional republic and will never be a democracy. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. We got people that are just too freedom oriented for a democracy straight up to work here.
It's a good point. I see it all over Texas.
Yeah, I mean, Texas is a great example of what one state can be all by itself.
It is a model, a role model.
Yep, 100%.
Interesting.
So just to wrap up stories, we'll make tonight's a little short for you. I know you've had a long day, and I definitely appreciate you making that long trip and then making some time for all of us out on the interwebs.
I run off adrenaline. I live for this. You know this.
I know. I love it. Just don't run yourself ragged. We got to keep you alive long enough to make some more money on you.
Right? Commodities, baby. Everybody's a commodity. Look into that.
I need somebody close to Mexico in case I need to smuggle in some inner oats, some cool items.
Well, Leprechaun, I don't want to brag, but we got you 100%. You come down here and there's plenty of work. There's plenty of real estate to buy and build families upon. It's just ripe.
Someday I may take you up on that sooner than later,
All you got to do is head south. You know where. It's just straight south.
Yep. Drop 35 until you hit the bottom.
35 to stay alive. 35 to stay alive. All right. Well, I haven't. So I have no idea what's going on with any of the crazy crypto or the stock exchanges. And you mentioned something about the ruble, so I'm excited to see what is going to happen with that. I know that what is happening is the dollar is losing credibility worldwide, and that is something to be concerned about, because when people don't have faith in your money, then your money becomes worthless. And I don't know how better else to articulate that.
Well, and the thing that really terrifies me is that in a way, crypto could be the thing that ends up being the biggest demise, because if the government gets involved in crypto, uses banks to essentially be the, like the backing for it, and to do the record keeping and, use all the same principles, not exactly the same, but essentially you could have your digital money be straight up at, whatever bank, Bank of England or, Bank of America or whatever bank they end up using for the Fed. But that digital dollar has a chance of really being something that could change the crypto world and, regular money, all out. So we'll have to get into that in another show. But yeah, there's some stuff going on with that we should look into. That digital dollar's got me a little concerned.
Let's definitely do a little more insight and get back to you guys on that, because good stuff.
Yeah, we want to be right, not first. So no,
exactly.
Last thing I wanted to end with before we do our white pill is that Biden made a remark in a recent speech referring, I don't know if it was accidentally or if it was intentional, but he mentions that he was in a confidential, secure meeting, and that the United States and the European countries are participating, what's basically, they called it the New World Order, so that term is just one of those that really rubs people wrong. So we're going to dive into that in the next episode too. So
I'm excited because I can understand what you're saying. It's a misconstrued concept.
For sure. But anyways, I'm going to let you go, man, let you rest up so you can get to work and keep making some money in Texas. We're happy for you.
The grind never stops, baby.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you tomorrow. This is the Digital Climax King signing off for today. Thanks again, everyone.